The Galactic Council chamber was never silent, but today the noise felt different. It was not the usual arguments or the usual speeches. It was the whisper of fear moving like cold wind through the long hall. Delegates from 1,000 worlds had gathered for the most important meeting in 3 centuries, yet the most important seat of all remained empty. At the center table, between the banners of the great powers, sat a single dark chair made of iron and stone. No lights above it. No flag behind it. No representative beside it. It was the seat of Earth, and it had not been filled for more than 100 years. Envoy Tyrell of the Varellan Union felt the weight of that empty seat more than anyone else in the room. His species was old, wise, and cautious, but even they feared humans. Their stories were always told in low voices. He remembered them as a child, tales of humans fighting with impossible courage, tales of humans ending wars started by monsters, tales of humans who never bowed to any power, not even to the council itself. But those stories were from another age. Earth no longer spoke to the galaxy. They no longer sent ships. They no longer answered calls. Many young species believed humans had died off. Others believed they had grown weak. Tyrell believed neither. He believed Earth had simply chosen to be silent, and that idea frightened him more than anything else. The council chair, an ancient being made of shimmering crystals, struck the table 3 times. The room finally quieted. The chair's voice echoed like breaking glass. Delegates, we begin. The fallen star empire has returned. Their ships have already crossed beyond the rim. We face a threat that once destroyed half the known galaxy. We must unite or fall. Gasps filled the hall. Some delegates cried out. Some argued. Some trembled. Everyone knew the old history. When the fallen empire last appeared, billions died before the council managed to drive them back. It had taken every species, every ship, every weapon. And humans had been the ones who led the final strike. Tyrell looked again at the empty seat. Was Earth truly ignoring this threat? Were they blind? Or did they simply not care? The council chair raised a hand for silence. We sent Earth 12 formal invitations to return to the council. We received no answer. Tyrell's stomach tightened. 12 invitations should have been impossible to ignore. Humans were known to act fast, even recklessly. Their silence meant something, and he didn't like what it meant. A nervous ambassador from the Orlan hive stood and clicked in a shaky voice. If Earth does not join us, we cannot win. Their fleets, where are they? Their armies, are they gone? More voices followed. Are humans extinct? Are they hiding? Are they too proud to speak? Did they abandon us? Tyrell knew none of those guesses felt right. Before he could speak, a young member of the Security Council entered the chamber, holding a glowing tablet. He rushed to the chair and whispered something urgently. The chair froze, crystal body dimming. Then, slowly, he turned toward the delegates. A signal has been detected on the edge of the galaxy, the chair announced. A human war beacon has activated. The hall exploded in shock. Delegates leaned forward, shouting questions. Some cheered in relief. Others looked even more afraid. Human war beacons were ancient devices from the time when humanity was still active in the galaxy. They were not alarms. They were warnings. They did not ask for help. They told others to stay away. Tyrell felt cold all over. If a human war beacon had activated, then something terrible was coming. Or perhaps, something terrible had already arrived. The chair raised his voice again. The beacon does not broadcast distress. It broadcasts readiness. The word struck the hall like a thunderclap. Readiness for what? Readiness for war? Readiness to defend? Or readiness to strike first? No one knew. A heavy silence fell as every delegate stared at the empty seat once more, as if expecting a human to appear and explain everything. But no one appeared. Tyrell stood, his heart pounding. We cannot wait, he said. If Earth refuses to come to us, I will go to them. Someone must speak to humanity. Someone must understand their silence. The room turned toward him. Some nodded with hope. Others shook their heads with fear. The chair considered him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Very well, Envoy Tyrell. You will travel to the Sol system as a representative of the entire council. You will ask Earth for their answer. A cold shiver ran down Tyrell's back. The mission felt like walking into the mouth of a sleeping beast. Humanity had gone quiet for a century. No one knew why. No one knew what they were doing. No one knew how strong they still were. But he felt the truth deep inside. Humans did not forget. Humans did not grow soft. Humans did not kneel. As he prepared to leave, the giant windows above the chamber darkened for a moment. Stars flickered, almost as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Tyrell looked up, unease crawling through him. Something had awakened. And whatever it was, Earth already knew. Tyrell's ship drifted out of slipspace with a quiet shiver, arriving at the edge of the Sol system like a lone visitor stepping onto forbidden land. The moment the stars settled outside the windows, he felt something watching him. He could not explain how, there was no warning from sensors, no movement in the dark, but he felt it all the same. It was as if the space around Earth carried its own awareness, old and patient, waiting for him to make the first mistake. He breathed slowly and kept his hand steady. The Sol system had a strange reputation even among old explorers. Many said humans filled their home with hidden devices and invisible defenses. Others said Earth used no defenses at all, because they never needed them. Tyrell did not know which rumor was true, but he knew he would soon find out. As his ship crossed the outer orbit line, a sharp beep echoed through the cabin. The communication panel lit up by itself. Tyrell swallowed as a smooth human voice spoke clearly, without any emotion, without introduction. Unidentified vessel. State your designation. The voice felt far too calm. There was no welcome, no curiosity. It sounded like someone who had known he was coming from the moment he entered the system. Tyrell answered carefully. I am Envoy Tyrell of the Galactic Council. I come with permission to speak to the leaders of Earth. There was a long pause, so quiet Tyrell could hear his own heartbeat. When the voice returned, it sounded exactly the same as before. Purpose of your request? To seek alliance, Tyrell said. The fallen star empire has returned. The council needs Earth's answer. The voice became even colder. We already know. Tyrell felt his skin tighten. Then, may I ask why you have not responded to the council? Silence again. This time the silence lasted long enough to feel like a warning. Before he could speak again, his ship's navigation systems flickered. A new flight path appeared, drawn in bright red across his screen, straight toward Earth. The voice returned with a final message. Follow the route. Do not deviate. The communication link ended instantly. No farewell. No explanation. For a long moment, Tyrell simply stared at the red path. His instincts warned him that turning away would be dangerous. He gently engaged thrusters and flew forward. The stillness of the Sol system was unnerving. There were no ships in orbit. No patrols. No transport lines. No signs of daily life. But every few minutes, his sensors caught faint, tiny movements, something shifting in the dark, something too fast to track. His entire ship felt like it was passing through a web of invisible threads. When he reached the orbital range of Mars, he expected to see human colonies. Surely humans still mined the red planet. But the surface looked dead and empty. Dust storms swept across open plains. No lights shone in the night. No cities, no ships, nothing. Yet the sensors showed hundreds of life support systems buried under the ground. Humans were hiding. Or preparing. As Tyrell's ship passed the moon, his breath caught in his throat. On the dark side, he saw giant scars carved into stone, old weapon platforms, melted bunkers, massive craters that looked nothing like natural impacts. The moon had been a battlefield, perhaps in a war no one outside Earth ever knew existed. Envoy Tyrell, the human voice said again, without warning. Proceed to Earth orbit. Do not approach any installation unless instructed. Tyrell nodded even though he knew the speaker could not see him. He followed the path and finally arrived at Earth. He expected a world shining with life. Instead he saw a planet that looked peaceful. Too peaceful. No giant shipyards. No massive fleets. No grand signs of power. Just clouds drifting over blue oceans and green continents. A quiet world that did not look like a civilization capable of saving the galaxy. Then a shadow passed under his ship. Tyrell glanced down. A drone the size of a house drifted beneath him, completely silent. Then another. Then another. Soon his ship was surrounded by hundreds, sleek, dark, reflective machines, each shaped like a blade. They did not show any weapons, yet Tyrell felt more exposed than if he had flown into a swarm of warships. A new voice replaced the first one. This voice was human but different, strong, confident, and unmistakably alive. Envoy Tyrell, welcome to Earth orbit. You will be escorted to the surface. Remain calm. I am calm, Tyrell lied. The drones formed a cage around his ship and guided him downward. As he entered the atmosphere, he saw something strange. There were no floating megacities, no sky defense towers, no massive industrial zones like other advanced planets had. Earth looked almost untouched. Forests stretched across continents. Snow covered wide mountain ranges. Oceans glimmered like clean glass. It was a beautiful world. But it was also a world that showed no fear of attack, as if humans believed no enemy would dare strike them. The drones led him toward a quiet coastline. A landing pad appeared from beneath the sand, rising smoothly like a hidden stage. His ship touched down. The engines cooled. Tyrell waited, heart pounding. Then a door slid open in the landing platform, and a single woman stepped out, a human with sharp eyes, dark hair pulled back, and a calmness that felt heavier than armor. "Welcome to Earth, envoy," she said. "I am Commander Arya Hale. You came seeking answers." Tyrell bowed respectfully. "Yes. The galaxy needs your help." Arya Hale studied him like someone weighing truth against danger. "We know about the fallen empire. We knew long before the council did." Tyrell froze. "Then why have you stayed silent?" he asked. She walked closer, her gaze steady. "Because Earth no longer joins wars lightly. We have been deciding something very important." "Deciding what?" Tyrell whispered. "Whether the galaxy deserves to be saved." Her words struck him like a blast of cold air. Behind her, more drones rose from the sand, watching him without emotion, without sound. Tyrell realized something terrifying. Earth was not unprepared. Earth was waiting. Commander Arya Hale led Tyrell down a quiet stone walkway that cut through a forest of tall green trees. The air smelled clean, almost unreal, like the world had been washed and made new just for his arrival. Birds called from the branches above, sunlight slipped between leaves and danced on the path. Nothing about the scene matched the image he had of humanity, warriors, strategists, fire-hearted beings who once stood against unstoppable empires. Yet the peace around him felt too perfect, too controlled. It made him uneasy. Arya walked with calm steps, her hands behind her back, her expression unreadable. Every so often, she glanced at him, not with distrust, but with the kind of sharp awareness a soldier carries even in their sleep. She finally stopped near a cluster of smooth white buildings built into the hillside. Their design was simple, quiet, blending into the forest instead of dominating it. "Before we speak further," Arya said, "you must understand something important. Earth did not disappear. Earth chose silence." Tyrell nodded. "Many in the galaxy feared something terrible happened to you." "Something did," she replied. "We watched the galaxy repeat its mistakes again and again. Endless conflicts. Power struggles. Empires rising from the ashes of the last. And every time humanity stepped in to help, it led to more expectations, more demands, more cost." They entered one of the buildings. Inside was a long corridor lined with transparent walls. Behind each wall, holograms flickered, records of battles, destroyed planets, refugees seeking shelter, council debates, broken treaties. Some scenes he recognized. Others he had never seen before. "What are these records?" Tyrell asked. "History the galaxy forgot," Arya said. "Some we fought in. Some we tried to stop. Some we tried to rebuild after the chaos passed." Tyrell paused at a hologram showing human ships evacuating a world breaking apart under gravitational collapse. Another hologram showed a human diplomat stepping between two alien armies moments before they clashed, taking a blast meant for one of the commanders. Another showed a human fleet shielding a council convoy from a rogue AI swarm. "In the old days," Arya continued, "we believed we were part of a shared future. But the more we gave, the more the galaxy wanted. We fought wars that were not ours, carried burdens no one else would carry, and in return, we were feared, judged, or used." Tyrell lowered his head. "I cannot deny the council failed you." "The council did what it always does," Arya replied. "They counted votes and argued about rules while we bled." She stopped before a final hologram. It showed a human commander giving a furious speech in the council chamber, surrounded by leaders who refused to act during a crisis centuries ago. "This was the moment Earth walked away," she said softly. "We realized that saving everyone was useless if no one wanted to be worth saving." Tyrell watched the hologram fade. He felt a twist in his chest, a mix of guilt and understanding. Humans were not absent because they were tired. They were absent because they were choosing a different path. "Then why the beacon?" he asked. "Why show you are ready for war?" Arya gave him a long, heavy look. Because the fallen empire is not like other threats. They do not want control. They want annihilation. And humanity will never stand aside while the galaxy burns. Tyrell felt a spark of hope. So you will join us? Join? Arya repeated, almost amused. No. Earth will not rejoin the council. We will not sit in your chamber again. We will not bow to any leadership but our own. Tyrell's hope dimmed. Then, what will you do? Arya motioned for him to follow again. They descended deeper underground. The air grew cooler, the lights brighter. The hallway opened into a massive chamber carved from stone and reinforced with metal. At first Tyrell thought he was looking at a graveyard, because thousands of giant machines sat in perfect stillness, dark shapes stretching into the distance like sleeping giants. But they were not broken. They were waiting. This, Arya said, is why Earth was silent. Tyrell stepped closer. Each machine had broad armored plating, sharp edges, wings folded like the limbs of huge insects. They were not ships. They were too compact, too dense with weapon ports, too shaped for maneuvering rather than travel. Warframes? Tyrell whispered. I've never seen units like these. You haven't, Arya said. These were designed after we left the council. Built for a threat we knew would one day return. Tyrell touched one of the machines gently, but even before his hand reached the metal, a faint hum answered him, as if the machine recognized an outsider. He stepped back quickly. Arya continued, the fallen empire does not fight like other powers. Their ships swarm and reshape. Their weapons adapt. We learned that the last time. So we built these, units that adapt faster, strike harder, move with human instinct. What do you call them? He asked. Arya's eyes darkened with fierce pride. Bond frames. Each one pairs with a human pilot. They move together. Think together. React as one mind. A shiver ran through him. These machines were like nothing in the galaxy. And there were thousands. Why keep them hidden? He asked. Because we were deciding something, Arya said quietly. A question that needed an honest answer. What question? Arya looked him straight in the eyes. Is the galaxy worth saving? Or only worth warning? Her words echoed through the chamber, bouncing off metal and stone. Tyrell felt the weight of humanity's judgment settle on his shoulders. For the first time in his life, he understood what the old stories had meant, not about human strength, but human choice. If humans decided the galaxy was worth saving, they would save it. If they decided otherwise, no force existed that could change their minds. He swallowed hard. And have you reached your decision? Arya did not smile. She simply turned toward the vast hall of sleeping war machines. You will see soon, she said. And the machines behind her began to wake. The first machine to awaken lit up with a deep red glow, like an ancient eye opening after centuries of darkness. Then another hum began, and another, spreading across the chamber like rolling thunder. Tyrell stepped back, heart pounding in his chest. Thousands of bond frames lifted their heads, wings unfolding slightly, metal shifting in slow, powerful movements. They did not move like machines. They moved like creatures rising from sleep. Arya Hale watched them with a steady expression, a commander examining soldiers she trusted with her life. The galaxy forgets that we learned from every war, she said. But the fallen empire learned too. They rebuilt themselves in the shadows. For 2 years, we have tracked their movements. For 2 years, we have prepared. Tyrell forced his voice to work. Why did you not warn the council sooner? Why let us walk blind into this returning threat? Arya turned her gaze toward him, calm but unflinching. Because warnings lead to debates. Debates lead to delay. Delay leads to death. The fallen empire does not wait for committees. So neither do we. Tyrell felt the sting of her words. They were not spoken in cruelty, but truth. Painful, sharp truth. The far wall of the chamber shimmered. A large display activated, showing a star map. Systems along the rim were blinking red, worlds Tyrell recognized as quiet, unimportant, sparsely colonized. But now they were gone. 3 systems erased, Arya said. Population combined, 6 billion. Tyrell's throat tightened. Why would they strike isolated regions first? Because that is what they always do, she said. Eliminate the silent worlds. The ones that cannot warn the others. The map zoomed in. A 4th system trembled with red light. Then the blinking stopped. The star dimmed. Another world gone. Tyrell felt a chill run through him. They're moving faster this time. Yes, Arya said quietly. Their new weapons fold matter into a collapsing core. No survivors. No escape. He stared at the chamber of bond frames again. Each machine was now fully awake, glowing, humming, flexing joints and wings with unnatural grace. Are these your answer? They are part of it, Arya replied. But Earth does not fight with machines alone. She tapped a panel on her wrist. A door on the opposite side of the chamber slid open, and humans began walking in, hundreds of them, wearing sleek flight suits, calm-faced, eyes sharp. Not soldiers who looked eager for war, but soldiers who understood its cost. They are the chosen pilots? Tyrell asked. They volunteered, Arya said. Nobody is forced. But every one of them knows what the fallen empire becomes if left unchecked. Tyrell watched them. Young, old, men, women, humans of every background. As they approached the bond frames, the machines reacted, metal plates shifting, engines murmuring like animals greeting their partners. Something strange happened when the pilots touched the machines. The bond frame's glow shifted from red to a deep blue or bright gold or bright white, depending on the pilot. The colors moved like living energy along the metal, following each pilot's hand. Symbiotic interfaces, Arya explained. They connect directly with a pilot's nervous system. Thoughts become movement. Intent becomes power. Humans have always adapted faster than other species. Now their machines do as well. Tyrell felt at once amazed and terrified. The galaxy had feared human power for ages. If they had known this existed. What will you do with all this? He asked softly. Arya's reply was simple, we will do what must be done. Before he could question her further, the chamber shook, the floor trembled, lights flickered, the bond frames froze instantly, sensors pointed upward. Alarms sounded. A sharp, urgent voice echoed through the room. Incoming transmission from the outer line. Priority absolute. Arya led Tyrell to the display as the image shifted to a battlefield. The fallen Empire ships were not ships at all. They were twisted shapes of dark metal and shifting limbs, like nightmares forged into starships. They swarmed across a council planet's orbit. The planet glowed with fires, breaking apart. Tyrell gasped. That's Council World Raven 3. They had defenses. Fleets. Shields. They had hope, Arya said. Hope is not enough. The feed zoomed in. A council cruiser tried to escape. One of the fallen ships latched onto it and pulled it in as if crushing paper. No explosion. No debris. Just a silent collapse. Tyrell felt sick. We're losing everything. Arya touched her wrist panel again. Her voice echoed through loudspeakers across the entire chamber. All pilots, prepare for surface deployment. All bond frames, follow activation protocols. Operation Dawnfire is approved. The pilots saluted. The bond frames positioned themselves. Metal wings spread fully, glowing brighter and brighter. Tyrell stared in awe as huge lifts opened under the machines. One by one, the bond frames dropped downward, falling into darkness before engines roared to life, launching them into upward tunnels. Where are they going? Tyrell asked. Arya stepped beside him, watching the lights vanish into the sky. To join the fleet in high orbit. Earth's response begins now. Response? Tyrell repeated. She looked at him with that same calm, unbreakable human intensity. Yes. The galaxy begged for help. The council pleaded. But humanity does not answer to desperation. We answer to necessity. She walked toward another corridor, motioning for Tyrell to follow. And the fallen empire's return gave us the final answer to the question we have debated for a century. What question? He asked again. Arya paused at the doorway and turned back to him. Is the galaxy worth saving? After reviewing every history, every failure, every betrayal. Yes. We decided it is. Tyrell felt tears prick his eyes, not of sadness, but relief. But do not mistake this for obedience, Arya continued. We do not return as followers. We do not return as allies under the council. He swallowed. Then what do you return as? Arya's lips curved into a fierce, quiet smile. As humanity. And that alone is enough to change the fate of everything. Above them, the first wave of bond frames shot into the sky like living stars breaking free from gravity. War had come. And Earth was done waiting. The skies above Earth cracked open with thunder as the first wave of bond frames burst into the upper atmosphere. They rose like a storm of metal wings, glowing trails carving bright paths through the clouds. Each machine moved with the grace of a living being, rolling, diving, climbing, responding to the motions and thoughts of its human pilot. Tyrell watched from the observation deck of a launch platform, unable to look away. It felt like witnessing the awakening of an ancient guardian species that had slept too long. Arya stood beside him, her eyes focused on the rising lights. "The fleet will form up in high orbit," she said. "Then they'll jump to the Raven line. They'll arrive in minutes, not hours." Tyrell swallowed. "Even the Council's fastest ships take 2 hours to reach that sector." Arya nodded once. "We improved slip capacitors after we left the Council. We shared the discovery with no one." He opened his mouth to respond, but the ground trembled as a second wave of bond frames ignited their engines. Hundreds more launched at once, creating a thunderous shockwave that rippled across the coastline. Birds scattered into the air. Leaves shook from trees. The platform lights flickered. "How many are there?" Tyrell whispered. "Enough to break the fallen line," Arya said. "Enough to change the story the galaxy tells about humans." But even as she spoke those words, Tyrell sensed a deeper truth. This was not about glory. Not about power. Not even about revenge. This was duty, the kind humans never abandoned no matter how far they withdrew from the world. Arya motioned for him to follow. They boarded a small transport that carried them into orbit. As they rose through the atmosphere, the curve of Earth revealed itself, blue oceans, white clouds, sprawling forests, and only small traces of civilization. A quiet world. A peaceful one. But now its silence was broken by the roar of metal wings soaring into space. When they broke through the cloud layer, Tyrell gasped. He had seen fleets before, massive groups of ships aligned in precise formations, shining like steel constellations. But this was different. Bond frames formed a living storm, a swirling pattern too complex to map. They moved in spirals, lines, waves, and arcs, an adaptive fleet with no single center, no vulnerability. They formed, broke apart, reformed, shifted in ways that felt almost like breathing. "What is this pattern?" Tyrell asked softly. "A fractal assault web," Arya replied. "Designed to confuse fallen sensors. They try to target the center of a formation, but our formations have no center." He shivered. "You built this entire strategy while the galaxy debated whether to send scouts." Arya did not answer. She didn't need to. The transport docked aboard a massive human command ship, the Resolute Dawn. Its design was simple and smooth, with no sharp angles, no heavy armor plating. At first glance, it looked like a civilian ship. Then Tyrell stepped inside. Holographic maps covered the walls, showing the galaxy with live updates. Human officers moved with quiet efficiency. There were no shouted orders, no frantic movements. Everyone knew exactly what they were doing. Everyone knew what was at stake. A voice spoke over the intercom. "Bond frame wings are in stable formation. Slip jump preparations complete." Another voice followed. "Commander Hale, command authority required for fleet-wide jump." Arya stepped onto the command platform. "Authorization, Hale 7-2 Astra." The lights dimmed. The ship shuddered. A soft hum filled the air, like the heartbeat of a giant awakening. Tyrell felt pressure against his chest as space seemed to twist around the ship. Human slip drives were smoother than anything the Council had built. No shaking. No violent distortion. Just a deep pull, like drifting into sleep. Then the hum intensified. The view screen shimmered. The fleet disappeared. Tyrell staggered slightly, gripping a rail. "Is that it? We've jumped?" Arya nodded. "We're entering Raven space." The stars outside settled. The screens flickered, and then the fleet was no longer over Earth. They stood above a world engulfed in fire. The Council planet Raven 3 was being torn apart. The fallen Empire ships, if they could even be called ships, swarmed across the skies like living shadows. Some looked like twisted roots wrapped around glowing cores. Others moved like serpents with razor limbs. Some were just shifting masses of metal and light that defied logic. Tyrell's voice trembled. "There are millions of them." Arya said nothing. She simply lifted a hand to her command panel. "All wings," she ordered. "Begin intercept phase. Protect survivors. Break the swarm." The bond frames moved before she even finished speaking. They shot forward in massive arcs, splitting into countless small groups. They dove into the fallen swarm at angles no ship should survive, yet they didn't crash. They weaved through the enemy like dancers, blades cutting through dark metal, engines flaring as they looped and turned. The fallen ships reacted, shifting, reshaping, firing beams that sliced through space. But the bond frame split again. And again. Thousands of units moved as if they shared one mind. And their pilots were calm, breathing in sync with their machines, bending them like extensions of their own bodies. The Council defenders, still retreating below, saw the sudden storm of glowing wings and froze in disbelief. By the stars. Humans came, one shouted over an open channel. They're cutting the swarm apart. Is that a human fleet? Arya watched the battle without blinking. Maintain pressure. Keep them away from the evacuation shuttles. More bond frames dove downward, shielding the escaping civilians with their own bodies, deflecting attacks, slicing enemy limbs. Tyrell felt his throat tighten. I've never seen anything like this. No one fights like this. Arya finally spoke. No one fights like humans when they decide something is worth saving. One of the fallen ships, a massive creature of metal tendrils, charged toward the human fleet. Dozens of bond frames rose to meet it. Their wings folded inward, releasing bursts of energy that tore the creature apart from the inside. The battlefield flashed with light. The tide was turning. But just as victory seemed close, the stars behind them twisted again. Something larger was arriving. Something older. Something the size of a small moon. The Resolute Dawn's alarm screamed. Arya's eyes sharpened. The fallen empire has sent a sovereign. Tyrell felt the blood drain from his face. A sovereign was not a ship. It was a god of war. And Earth was about to face it. The moment the sovereign emerged, the entire battlefield seemed to shrink. Even from within the Resolute Dawn, Tyrell felt the oppressive weight of its presence, an ancient, crushing pressure that reached through the screens, through the air, through his bones. The massive entity unfurled like a dark star blooming into existence. Plates of black metal shifted across its surface like drifting continents. Thousands of red lights flickered inside its core, pulsing like a colossal heartbeat. The fallen ships that had been tearing through Raven 3 suddenly retreated toward it, forming a defensive ring as if welcoming their ruler. It's enormous, Tyrell whispered. How does something that size even move? Arya's voice remained calm, though her eyes darkened with focus. It doesn't move through space. It folds around it. As if to prove her words, the sovereign bent the sky itself. Stars near its edges rippled, smeared, distorted. Its gravitational field twisted like a nightmare net draped over reality. The bond frames closest to it struggled to stay stable. Several spiraled out of formation. Alarms blared across the Dawn's bridge. A young officer spoke quickly. Commander, the Sovereign's distortion wave is increasing. We're losing contact with Wing 6, Wing 9, Wing 11. Arya lifted a hand. Stabilize channels. Pull the wings back. Keep them out of the immediate fold radius. But Commander. That's an order. Her tone left no room for argument. Tyrell watched the Sovereign in horrified awe. It made even the largest human ships look like insects. Worse, there was intelligence behind it, not a mind like an animal or machine, but something older, colder, built around one purpose. Why does it feel like it's looking at us? Tyrell asked. It is, Arya replied. Sovereigns are not blind constructs. They're commanders. They analyze. They learn. They adapt. And humans think they can stop that? Tyrell asked, his voice tight. Arya did not turn toward him. Humans don't think we can stop it. His stomach twisted. Then what are we doing? We know we can. Before he could respond, the Sovereign released its first attack. It didn't fire a beam or launch a missile. Instead, a silent ripple expanded outward, an invisible wave that rippled across space like a heartbeat. The moment it touched the bond frames, half of them flickered, their lights sputtering. A few crashed into each other. Others dropped toward the planet's upper atmosphere, trails of smoke behind them. Tyrell gasped. What is that? A null wave, Arya said. It shuts down anything that relies on standard energy frequencies. It's how the Fallen destroyed half the galaxy the first time. And your machines, your people, just. They're not destroyed, Arya said sharply. They're recovering. Humans knew about null waves. We planned for them. As if on cue, the dimmed bond frames reignited, their lights shifting from gold or blue to deep violet, their emergency power systems coming online. They climbed back into formation almost instantly. The Sovereign pulsed again. This time the wave was stronger. Several of the Council ships that remained in orbit went dark completely, floating lifeless. One shattered as the pressure of the wave crushed its hull inward. The fallen swarmed around the wreckage, feeding on the debris like predators. Enough, Arya said. She tapped her wrist panel, and the entire human fleet shifted position, pulling back in a coordinated arc. The bond frames formed a tight wall between the Sovereign and the surviving evacuation vessels. Arya's voice echoed across all channels. All wings, prepare for Kronos formation. Tyrell blinked. Kronos formation? What is that? Arya stepped forward, her voice steady and cold. The one thing the Council told us never to build. Lights across the bond frames changed again, this time to harsh white. Their wings locked, their engines synchronized. The formation tightened into a spiral pattern, closing in around the Sovereign. Each unit drew closer, 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 until hundreds formed a perfect cylinder of light. The Sovereign turned its full attention on them. Interior lights flashed. A rumbling sound, felt more than heard, vibrated through the Dawn's hull. Then the bond frames unleashed their strike. Not a beam. Not a weapon. A resonance wave, pure energy amplified through hundreds of synchronous bond frames, vibrated into the Sovereign's armor. The dark plates buckled inward. The creature shrieked, a sound like metal screaming underwater. Its distortion field flickered. The first crack appeared. Tyrell stepped back from the screens. You cracked a Sovereign. It's not enough, Arya said. This one is bigger than the models we trained against. The Sovereign retaliated, its plates bending backward as an enormous lance of spiral energy shot from its core. It pierced the spiral formation, shredding half the bond frames instantly. Pilots died in flashes of white light. Casualties. An officer cried. We lost wings 3, 7, and 14. Arya's jaw tightened, but she didn't hesitate. Remaining wings, maintain pressure. Dawn, prepare Lance Protocol. Tyrell's head whipped toward her. Lance Protocol? That sounds like a last resort operation. It is, she said. We're using the Dawn's core as a focused energy weapon. Tyrell went pale. That could tear this ship apart. It will, Arya said. She turned toward a second officer. Evacuate non-essential crew. Seal off Section 8. Prepare the core funnel. The officer saluted and ran. Tyrell grabbed her arm. You can't just throw away your flagship. She looked at him for the first time, not with coldness, not with strategy, but with something human and heavy and real. Tyrell, she said softly, humanity did not return to the galaxy for pride. Or revenge. Or glory. We returned to protect life. All life. Her voice steadied. If a ship must die for worlds to live, then we die. Before he could argue, the Sovereign opened a fresh wound in space, an energy maw forming in front of it. If that attack fired, the planet below would be split in half. The Dawn vibrated violently. Core charge at 60%. The bond frames regrouped despite slaughter. They dove at the Sovereign again, clawing at its outer armor with raw energy, sacrificing themselves to keep it distracted. Arya lifted her hand. Aim. The front of the resolute Dawn glowed brighter than a star. On my mark. The Sovereign charged. The Dawn charged. Tyrell felt his heart stop. Arya whispered, not to her crew, not to the galaxy. To humanity. She brought her hand down. Fire. The beam from the resolute Dawn erupted with the fury of a newborn star. It hurled forward in a narrow, blinding lance of pure energy, ripping the darkness apart. Space trembled. The Sovereign answered in the same instant, unleashing its own attack, a cosmic wound opening in front of it, a vortex of collapsing light meant to erase everything in its path. The two forces collided with a soundless impact that shook reality itself. Tyrell felt the bridge deck lurch under his feet. Panels shattered. Lights exploded. The ship groaned like a living creature in pain. But the Dawn did not break. Not yet. The beam continued pushing forward, cutting deeper into the Sovereign's core. The massive creature writhed, tendrils flailing, plates cracking and folding inward. Its distortion field flickered, breaking apart like shattered glass. But even wounded, the Sovereign fought on. Its maw widened, pulling in debris, light, energy, trying to swallow the Dawn's attack, to turn its power against the humans. Core integrity dropping. An officer shouted, 42%. We need more time, another yelled. Arya Hale didn't move. Her eyes burned with focus. All remaining bond frames, she commanded, Target the Sovereign's frontal plates. Keep its maw open and its shield unstable. Hundreds of bond frames answered. They streaked across space like spears of white fire, diving straight toward the Sovereign. Many never made it, the creature tore them apart with tendrils of shadow. But the ones who reached the core released everything they had, energy blasts, blade strikes, explosive dives, until the Sovereign's armor split apart. That was the opening the Dawn needed. Core charge stabilizing, the officer said breathlessly. 70%. The beam brightened, thickened, turning from white to blue, then blue to silver, pure, refined destruction. It punched through the Sovereign's outer shell. A shockwave ripped outward, sending fallen ships spinning helplessly away. The Sovereign's howl rang across every channel, deep, mournful, furious. For the first time in centuries, a Sovereign was dying. But so was the Dawn. Hulls buckled. Fire spread through the lower decks. Gravity fields flickered. Tyrell stumbled as the deck tilted under him. "We must evacuate," he shouted. "Commander, the ship cannot survive." Arya didn't look at him. "The galaxy cannot survive if the Sovereign lives." He grabbed her arm again, desperate. "Then let someone else finish the job. You've done enough." Her voice was quiet but firm. "There is no one else." A new alarm screamed, shrill, urgent, final. "Core breach in 30 seconds. The officers looked at Arya, waiting, trusting, fearing. She closed her eyes for a brief moment. Perhaps she remembered Earth's quiet forests, the faces of pilots who had launched minutes ago, the long years humanity had stood alone. Then she opened her eyes, and the decision was made. "Evacuate," she said. The crew stared. She repeated, louder, "All personnel, evacuate." "That is an order." "But Commander." "Go. Now." They hesitated only a second more, then ran. Tyrell grabbed her shoulders. "You must come too." Arya shook her head. "The beam must be guided manually. If I leave, the Dawn will drift. The Sovereign will escape." Tyrell felt his chest tighten until he could barely breathe. "You're sacrificing yourself." "I am a human, Commander," she said. "Sacrifice is a language my species has spoken since the dawn of time." The floor shuddered again. Fires burst overhead. Tyrell forced himself to move. His legs felt like stone. He turned toward the escape corridor. Then stopped. He couldn't do it. Not like this. Not leaving her behind. Arya's voice softened, not cold, not firm, not commanding. "Human. Tyrell. The galaxy needs you alive. Because when this is over, someone must tell the truth. Not the legend. Not the fear. The truth." She stepped toward him. "Tell them what we saw here. Tell them what humans chose. Tell them we came back because life matters, even when those lives forgot us." He felt tears burning his eyes. "I will." She nodded once. "Go." Tyrell ran. He reached the escape pod just as the hull groaned like it was about to tear apart. He strapped in, hit the release, and the pod shot away from the Dawn. Through the small viewport, he saw the ship, broken, burning, yet still firing its massive lance of light straight into the Sovereign. Then he saw Arya Hale. She stood at the command platform, silhouetted by fire and blinding light, bracing herself as the core ruptured behind her. The Sovereign cracked open. A blinding explosion filled the stars. The resolute Dawn went with it. When the light faded, silence fell. The Sovereign was gone. The fallen swarm broke apart in confusion, retreating without their commander. Bond frames chased them down, driving them from Raven 3's orbit. Council ships, stunned and battered, regrouped behind the human fleet. Humanity had done the impossible. Again. Tyrell's pod was retrieved hours later. He was trembling, exhausted, shattered by what he had witnessed. But he could still speak. And he did. Across the Council channel, his voice carried to every world. Earth has returned. They do not kneel. They do not obey. They choose. And today, they chose to save us. Weeks later, the Galactic Council gathered once more in the Great Chamber, scarred now, quiet, changed by the war. Every seat was filled. Except one. The seat of Earth. A soft chime echoed through the hall. A message appeared above the empty chair, simple white text on a black field. We did not come to reclaim a throne. We did not come to lead. We did not come to be thanked. We came because life matters. Another line appeared beneath it. We kneel to no one. But we will stand for all. The chamber was silent. Then, slowly, one by one, the delegates stood, not out of fear. Not out of duty. Out of respect. Terrell stood among them, placing a hand over his heart. Humanity had returned to the galaxy. Not as rulers. Not as saviors. As a promise.